Paul Rajani.
BBC Radio Leicester. So here's a question for you. Would you add a stranger on your social network? If the answer was yes, then you're probably high on a fraudster's target list of victims. Today, a new insight into the criminal mind has been exposed as a convicted criminal reveals the techniques being used to steal the identities of a rising number of people. So with rapid evolutions in information sharing online, exactly how far is too far? Well, I spoke to Justin Basini, the founder and CEO of Allow, and Professor Martin Gill from the University of Leicester, who's an expert in criminology and conducted this particular investigation.
Well, I think there are two parts of the research, and one bit that I focus on in particular is how offenders approach their crimes. And what we're finding is that there's a whole range of information on social media that people use, and they back up this by doing extra research to find out even more information. So build up a profile, use what information's available, and then maybe they would do things like, for example, ring up the person concerned and say, I'm from the fraud department of a bank. Have you made these payments recently? And of course the individual would say no. And they would then say, well, give us some more information. It looks like there's been fraud on your account. And from that, elicit information about their financial account. So we have to be very careful about what information we give away to people these days. Clearly, we're playing into the hands of offenders, and the consequences can be really serious. I mean, they can run up large debts in your name, and you may not find out for months, even years. So quite serious stuff.
Are some people sort of easier targets than others, would you say?
Definitely. People who are on Facebook, who do share a lot of information. We found people in and around Leicester, a third of them are giving away things like date of birth, education history, email addresses, even where they work. And what we found was that information can be a rich source for criminals, and therefore what we would advise is that people take a little moment just to understand who they're sharing with and making sure that they're using the privacy settings to protect themselves.
It is kind of a little bit worrying. We trust a lot more, wouldn't you say?
Well, yeah, it's amazing. We found 1 in 5 people in and around Leicester accepted friend requests on Facebook from people that they didn't know. So if you're doing that sort of thing, you're giving away a lot of information to people that potentially you don't know what they're going to do with that information.
Martin, tell us a little bit more about how the report was carried out.
Well, what I did is I've been conducting research for a number of years now on both victims and offenders, and I go into prison to find out from offenders precisely how they approach it. What we did in this particular example is Justin asked me to focus on how one offender understand in depth exactly how he approaches social media sites. And it was a fascinating insight into the way they behave. So, for example, I asked about photographs. Now, let's be clear, there are very good reasons why people want to put photographs on their sites, and all very positive stuff. But from his point of view, he saw these as an opportunity sometimes. For example, he said, were they wearing T-shirts that advertised a particular football club? That might be who they support. A university, was that the one that they attended as a student? Were there pictures of children? How many were they? Were they boys or girls? What age roughly were they? And he was able to use these to build up an insight into that person and who he or she was and what he or she did. And it's from that sort of base, from very basic information, they can build up a profile of someone. So, of course, no one's saying that one can't put information about oneself out there. It's just a matter of being aware about how this is sometimes used by those who are not acting in our best interest at all.
That's very, very scary. So how does the fraudster then go about obtaining information?
Well, I think the key thing to remember is that what offenders look for is any easy opportunity. So by looking at social media outlets, and of course don't forget he was saying that this is something that's very easy for him to do and for other people to do. You can get information about individuals, very basic information, but sometimes quite detailed information. And then you can build on that by looking at other sources from other places. Again, using the internet, so it's not difficult. Sometimes you might have to make phone calls either to the person's employer or to the person themselves, pretending to be someone else. And encouraging them and getting them to part with information. And the individual that I spoke to in this particular case study was extremely confident person. And he said that he's no longer doing this, you'll be pleased to know. But he was saying that when he was active, he relied on being confident, and he relied on people believing the facade that he was acting in their best interest. So, fortunately, there aren't so many of these people about, but what we like to do is just put people on their guard so they're aware of the risks they run and can take basic steps to prevent things happening.
What should we be doing, Justin, to make sure that we're, not a victim of identity theft?
Well, the good news is that it's a lot of common sense steps. So every time you share anything, you should make sure you know who you're sharing it with. Take some time to look at the privacy settings on places like Twitter and Facebook to make sure that you're as locked down and and the information that you're sharing is as locked down as possible. Think about the passwords that you use. Still, if you look at the top 10 passwords that are used, they are things like password 123, they are let me in, they are passwords that are very, very easy to crack. And we're all guilty of having one password, for example, that we use across lots and lots of different sites. Makes it very, very easy for people to get into your accounts. So taking very common sense steps, making sure that there's another good tip, which is making sure that your information isn't on the edited electoral register. So when you are asked to register as a voter, you'll see a little box on that form that says opt me out of the edited electoral roll. By doing that, it means that your information can't be sold by your local council. You can still vote, but your information is protected. So taking those little steps, taking a little bit of time to educate yourself so that you can protect your information and crucially make it harder for criminals to rip you off.
And how can people get more information? Where should they go for more information?
Well, on our website, www.i-allow.com, we have lots of guides and links to other third-party sites where you can basically educate yourself about how to protect your information online, how to protect your identity, and how to use things like Facebook privacy settings. And I'd encourage people to go there and have a look at those free resources.
That was Justin Basini, the founder and CEO of Allow, and also Professor Martin Gill from the University of Leicester, talking to me earlier today about identity fraud and things you can do to ensure that it doesn't happen to you.